I saw this tweet this morning by Tom Nash. He retweeted something by Arjan Karpal, and basically it says Apple begins making the iPhone in India. Well, the fact is they actually started making the iPhone in India about 2 years ago. They now have 3 plants in India, and their aspiration is to get 25% of the manufacturing into India by 2025. Then I got an email from Apple telling me that there was a new Apple Watch available, and so I went to see where they're making that, and they're making that in Vietnam. Now, this might be surprising to some of you, but I've made 32 videos since March of 2020 telling you that China is collapsing and you need to get your money out of it. And then just recently I did a video on how to invest in India, because India is going to replace China as China collapses. And as I said, I've done 32 videos, so you already know that, because I don't invest in what happened yesterday or tomorrow or the next week. I invest in the future, and that's what's happening. China is collapsing.
Best of Us Investors presents Carrie Griegmeyer.
As I said, China is collapsing. I think I've documented it. I hope you can go to the 32 videos that I've shared with you to show why I believe China is collapsing. The most recent one, the canary in the coal mine, is about the shipping company that is paying an 80% dividend projected. And it's not because they're making so much money. It's because their share price has gone down so much that if, in fact, they pay the same dividend as they did last year, it'll represent 80% of the share price. The reality is China is collapsing, and the shipping industry is the first indication of it. As I've documented, we also know that Amazon is shutting down or some of their last mile production. They're laying off 100,000 people, and that's because they get 78% of what they sell you from China. So China is collapsing. But then what this video is all about is how is that going to affect Apple, and how is Apple going to respond to it, because Apple is probably as dependent on China as any company in the world. And as I've tried to detail in other videos, they are moving their manufacturing out of China as quickly as they can. They have 3 plants in India. They have several plants in Vietnam, and that's where they're going to make the Apple Watch. Then I want you to read an article by Seeking Alpha. This is an article I just stumbled upon this morning. I go to Seeking Alpha every day, and if I have a subject I want to talk about, Apple, I put it in, I see what the latest information. And this gentleman has put together a tremendous analysis of Apple. And he says, and I agree, they own the brand. The brand is strong, and it will endure. But their exposure to China puts everything in jeopardy. This is a breakdown of how many of the watches that they do make are consumed by China. And as you can see, it's a decreasing percentage. It's 13% at this point. But if, in fact, China does collapse and the Chinese don't buy the watches they were, that's a direct decrease in China's business. At the same time, you have the currency situation where China's currency is, I mean, nobody wants it. So the reality is that as the dollar increases in value against the yuan, the price of the Apple Watch in China goes up, relatively speaking, and that represents 13% of their business. If then you add to that the fact that China is collapsing and they have a run on their banks, their real estate isn't going well, that their rice isn't growing because because of lack of water. The Yangtze River is not flowing, so they can't ship things. They can't make electricity, so they can't run their plants. Apple is dependent. So Apple becomes at high risk, not only because the Chinese manufacturing might go away, but the Chinese purchasing will go away. So this is a total reset. This is going to have an effect throughout your portfolio, and it's going to affect Google. It's going to affect Facebook because, again, if they can't get goods out of China because China is blacked out, China is in famine, China is in financial destruction, China's real estate industry is collapsing, then the advertising that Google does is going to go away and that Facebook does goes away. That's why I'm short the QQQs because China is collapsing. That's why I'm short China. That's YXI. This is an ETF that is basically conversely affiliated or associated with the growth of China. And again, unless you miss it, China is collapsing. So YXI should go up in value as the value of China goes down. Then, as I said, China is where is the manufacturing going? Well, it's going to India. Why is that? Well, there's cheap labor there too. So I am long India. I looked at two funds. INDA, which they label as their Nifty 50 of China, and INDY, which is heavy in banking. I don't like banking. I think banking is an industry of the past and will be replaced in some form in the very near future. So I chose to go into INDA. In fact, I'm adding to it as we speak. Then I'm also trying to buy into Vietnam. There aren't many opportunities to buy into Vietnam through the ETF area, but I found one, and it is VNM. It is very thinly traded, and this is a long-term bet. I'm not going to put as much on Vietnam as I am on India, but I want you to understand this whole premise is built upon the end of the world is just the beginning, mapping the collapse of globalization. If he could have put anything on here in addition to that, that's Peter Zayan, is it says China. China is collapsing. And that's what this book is all about. And I encourage you to go into the description and go to the Audible. Audible has a deal that if you don't belong to Audible now, that you get your first book free if you come in through my link. And I just really implore you, buy this book, and you will now have an advantage over 99% of the people who invest in the stock market because they don't read it. All they do is watch YouTubers like me and other people and watch TV. And you have never heard anything about this on Squawk Box or CNBC. They don't even invite him on because he has a message they don't want to deliver. Okay, so that's my take on China. That's my take on Apple. That's my take on where you should be invested. And let me just assure you, this is not financial advice. This is a view into 78 years of experience. And Kerry has shorted China through YXI, gone long India through INDA, and is trying to go long Vietnam through VNM. Now, I still have a part of my portfolio invested where I think this has absolutely nothing to do with interest rates, with inflation, or with the collapse of China or the Russian-Ukraine war, and that is biotech. There are 69 million baby boomers. We get everything we want. That's just, and I've talked about that before. The fact is, we don't want to die. We want to live longer. We are demanding that medicine moves from medical care to medical cure. Stop caring for our illnesses and take them out of our bodies. That is genome sequencing, genome editing, and genome therapy. If you don't know about it, read about it. If you want another book to buy The Code Breaker. If you don't want to go that deep into it, buy this book. This is The Lifespan. They're all in the description, and you can learn why Carey believes he has the potential to live to be 150 years of age. And if, in fact, what I believe is going to happen, they start making exchangeable or spare parts, I'll live beyond that. The fact is, the longer I live, the odds increase I can live forever. That's where I invest. Because to me, lifespan and taking cancer out of my body, which I know I have, is more important than a Tesla. It's more important than anything. The value of my home. It is the most important thing in my life. And I don't think I'm that much of a weirdo. I think it's the most important thing. Again, I'll ask you, which is more important to you? Your mother's life or your next electric car? Which is most important to you? So where is the energy, the money, the talent, the skill? Where's it going to go? Towards a better battery or taking cancer out of my body? Talk to you again tomorrow.